HaKadosh Boker Tov, we're going to be continuing with the Tzadik Dalet Amud Aleph 94a1 or 94a. We are starting on the Mishnah at the bottom, where it says Chatzer Shnifretza. And it says as follows: Chatzer Shnifretza Lishut Rabim Mishte Ruchotea. When you have a Chatzer that is opened up, it's breached to the Reshut Rabim from two different kivunim, from two different sides. Okay? So therefore, obviously, in such a way that since it's breached in two different ways, so therefore, it does not help to be metaltel inside of it. Or you have a house which is going to be broken to two different directions. Or you have a mavui that it was taken away. It's korah or lechi. Remember, the lechi is a side post, the korah is the top beam. And this is talking about on Shabbat. Mutarin beota Shabbat. All these things are going to be permitted on Shabbat, because since it was permitted, right, to carry on it on the onset of Shabbat, so therefore it's going to be considered permitted even though it was breached or broke or whatever it was during the Shabbat in itself. But it's going to be permitted for the next Shabbatot. These are the words of Rabbi Yehuda, right? These are the words of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yosef Omer, Rabbi Yosef says, if it's going to be permitted for that Shabbat, it's going to be permitted for the future Shabbatot. And if it's going to be prohibited for the next Shabbatot, Asurin leoto Shabbat. It's going to be prohibited for that Shabbat as well. Okay? Very good. Says now the Gemara. B'mayaskinan. What are we dealing with? Ilema be'eser. If you're going to tell me that the pirza was 10 amot or less, which means every single pirza was 10 amot or less, right? Which is a picture 1013. B'mayaskinan be'eser amot. Right? That's what we're going to ask now. So here, basically, if you're going to tell me this is the two directions, again, you have a chatzer, it's breached to the Reshut Rabim in two different directions. This is one, and this is two.
Where's the two?
One.
That's a regular opening.
Yeah. Well, 1 second. And two. Okay? This is the second one. So the Gemara is going to ask, what's the difference between Ruach Achat, Damni, and Pitcha? If right now you're going to tell me, right, that this is considered an opening, and that's exactly what just Richard asserted here. He said, well, there's an opening. So too here, this could be an opening. You have two openings. Well, you never had a courtyard, right, or a garden, or whatever you want to call it, that you have two entrances, right? It doesn't exist. You don't have a building that has two entrances, a house that has two entrances. Well, it's another opening. What's the problem? And that's what the Gemara says. Why is it that when it's going to be in one direction, you're going to say it's an opening? Also from two luchot, you're going to say it's a pitcha, it's a petach, it's an opening. Yeah? So say here that this is going to be considered an opening. So here he wants to say that it's on both sides. Mishte luchot, 1 and 2. Okay? So he comes and he says, Ella biyeter meser. It has to be more than 10 amot. Which means that until here, we said that it had to be less than 10 amot. Because if it's going to be more than 10 amot, that's going to be the difference. So even if you have it in one direction, it's going to be a problem. Which means even if one of these is already going to be more than a seramot, even if you don't have the other opening, it's still going to be prohibited. So like Richard said, this is a entrance. Yeah, this is a petach. Okay? Here you have the breach, and here you have another breach. So again, if we're talking about that it's less than 10 amot, 1014.
Oh yeah, there's another breach.
So he's trying to say that if you're going to tell me, right, that it's less than 10 amot, so therefore, what's the problem? It's an opening. So now I have 3 openings here. What's the big deal? You're right, it was a breach, it wasn't an opening, but it's the same thing. So says the Gemara, yeah, Ella, it has to be more than 10 amot. So if it's going to be more than 10 amot, which is this one, where it says more than 10 amot, so the Gemara says, so even if it's going to be in one direction, it's already going to be a problem. So Amar Rav says, Lo'olam be'eser. Really, we're talking about 10 amot. Ugon shenifretza bekeren zavit. Tzadik Dalet Amud Bet, 94b. And for example, it was done in a corner, which is this one. Which means here you have the regular opening, but then you have the breach. But the breach happened in the corner. So by being in the corner, it automatically gives you two different directions. Okay? The pitcha bekeren zavit of dinshe. Because nobody makes a petach in a corner. Meaning, here, like in this case over here, right? It's normal. People can make, or even here, it's normal that people can make in different directions, they can make openings. And it's called a petach. Here, it's not normal to make a petach in a corner. Okay, that's picture 1016. Okay, very good. Next, 2 dots. V'chen bait shenifratz mishte ruchotav. The same halacha would apply to a house, right? Which was nifratz mishte ruchotav, right? Which was basically breached to 2 different ruchot. Okay, to 2 different directions. So says the Gemara, Maishna meruach achad damninan pitikra yored vesotem. Here it is.
Number?
1021. Okay? So it says over here, right, what's the difference between that if it's going to be in one direction, I'm going to say pitikra yored vesotem. Mishte ruchonami leima pitikra yored vesotem. Also from from 2 different directions, I'm also going to say pitikra yored vesotem, which means over here, in this picture you have that it was breached. So now the house is open basically to the public. So what do I say? I say pitikra, which is again the tikra is the roof. It's going to go down and it's going to close it off. So why is it that in one direction I say it, in 2 directions I should also say it?
Where's the second direction?
1022.
Oh, look at that.
Okay? So Amri Deve Rav Mishmed Rav. They answered in the academy of Rav, the name of Rav. Kigon Shenifratz Bekeren Zavit, the exact same answer. That it was done in a Keren Zavit in the corner. Right? Vekiruyo Be'alachson. And it's going to be Be'alachson. Right? Which is basically in a Shipua. Over here, like this.
Number.
1023. Yeah, so it was done in a corner, and the roof is going down like this. So therefore, in such a fashion, you do not say pitikra yored vesotem. So here he says that you only say pitikra, because p is like a mouth. So he says you only have a mouth if it's done straight. If it's done in such a fashion that it's like this is not called a mouth. That means you would only say pitikra yored vesotem in these roofs, not on these roofs. Okay?
These roofs that are pointed at the top, they don't go down?
No, they're flat. This one. Sorry, which the one meaning
This one
like
right there. That
this one
go
does
down.
not go down.
Even on the side?
Nothing. Not even here on the side.
Okay,
You don't say.
and that's because?
Because it doesn't have a mouth. It says the concept of pitikra yored vesotem.
Got
P
it,
is a
got
pe,
it.
is a mouth.
Got it.
That's only here where it's flat. Okay, that's what he's saying over here.
Shmuel yet?
Right now we're at Shmuel. Okay. So Shmuel Amar, and Shmuel comes and he says, Afilu bieter me'eser, even if it's going to be more than 10 amot, right? It's also going to be the same halacha. Yachiv so meruach hachat nami. Even if it's going to be in ruach hachat, it's the same thing. So the answer is mishum bait. Because you see from here that there's a chidush, right? That to do with the house. What does that mean? We're over, no, that's the next picture. Okay? Basically, it says over here, even if it's going to be, we're talking about more than 10 amot. So why did the Mishnah say dafka that it had to be from 2 different sides? Even for one side, it's going to be a problem. So he says the reason why is because of the house. Because since by a house that's open up, the Mishnah has to teach you that it's only if it's going to be for two sides, right? Because if it's going to be in one side of the house, even if it's going to be more than 10 amot, it's not going to prohibit. Because we still say pitikra yored vesotem. So the same halacha would apply also in a chatzer, the exact same thing. That we're going to say pitikra yored vesotem. Okay? Until here we're clear?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay, very
yes, we are.
good. Thank you. Fine. So says the Gemara. Ubait gufe, we're on Tzadik Daled Amud Bet, yeah? 94b. Ubait gufe tikshe. So on the house itself, you could ask, he says, why are you only telling me in one direction, even in 2 directions by a house? You should say pitikra yored vesotem. Again, remember, pitikra yored vesotem means I'm going to take this roof and I'm going to put it downwards. And I pretend that it's like a mechitza. I pretend that it's a wall. So therefore, even by 2 directions, you should say it. The 2, and furthermore, Does Shmuel even hold of the concept of Pitikra Yorev Sotem? The Itmar was stated, Achsadra, which is this picture over here. An Achsadra bebika, picture 1024. When you have an Achsadra in a bika, like it's like a trellis or a pergola in, right, a bika in a valley. Rava says, Mutal tate bekula, you're allowed to come and carry the entire thing. Why? Pitikra Yorev Sotem. Shmuel says, you're only allowed to carry 4 amot inside of there. Why? Because you don't say it. So says the Gemara, halakashia, it's not a question. Kiletle be'arba. When does he say, right, that you do not say the klal of Pitikra Yorev Sotem, only if it's going to be that you need 4. But with 3, you do have it, which means, right, here, right, that's what he's saying over here.
All 4 open.
Yeah, all 4 open. Over here, kiletle bedalid, aval begimel le'itle, which means like this, right? He's coming and he's saying this here is 3 directions you have to say Pitikra Yorev Sotem. Direction number 1, 2, and 3. That's why you have the yellow line
3
here.
is okay.
So that's what he's saying over here. He's saying with 3, right, he does say Pitikra Yorev Sotem, but not with 4. That means I cannot make all 4 go like imaginary walls, but I can make 3. That's what he's saying. Okay? Mikomakom kashya. He says it's still a question. Why? You still see that if it's going to be 3 mechitzot or less, he does agree to Pitikra Yorev Sotem. So says the Gemara, right? Kidamri berav mishmed rav, kigon shenifratz bekeren zavi v'kuruya belachson. So he says, for example, if it's going to be that, for example, was nifratz bekeren zavit, that's over here.
Corner?
Yeah, in the corner, right?
What number?
The kiruyo 1027. The
Okay.
kiruyo be'arba, and you have the kiruyo is only 4 tfachim. That's over here on the top. You have it?
There's a lot of numbers there. It's reached all over the place.
Yeah, no, but where it says 4 tfachim.
It says 4 tefachim on 2 places.
Exactly. So that's what you need.
You need what?
The 4 tfachim. Right? That's what he says over here.
Like we spoke yesterday, do you remember?
You need for it to go down, you need 4 tefachim. So this is not a problem. This goes down.
So in such a case, that's what he's saying over here. כגון שנפרץ בקרן זווית וקרוב ארבעה, שפרצה שבשתי הרוחות הייתה בקרן זווית, ומשום כך it's not considered a petach. Right? Even if it wasn't going to be,
What's petach mean?
a petach is an entrance. Because remember, we don't say entrances on corners, because it's not normal to make an entrance on a corner. Okay? So the reason why is we don't say Pitikra Yorev Sotem is because we're talking about that even the kirui above was nifratz, right? With more than 4 tfachim. So because of that, and it's on both sides. So in order to be mashlim the mechitzot through the Pitikra Yorev Sotem, you have to say Pitikra and 4 mechitzot. And therefore you don't do that. That means basically here, if I would have to say Pitikra Yorev Sotem, I would need to say it on this side, downwards, this side of 5 amot downwards, this side of 5 amot downwards, and this of 4 tfachim downwards. So therefore I'm saying Pitikra on 4 sides. I don't say that.
Is there is conclusion for Shabbat continuation?
Yeah, in the Mishnah. There was machloket in the Mishnah. We didn't get there yet. Not yet. No. Yeah.
So this
Okay.
is Rav. Rav is saying this, correct?
Yes. Okay. But this is in Shitat Shmuel. Remember that. Because here in Shitat Shmuel, Shmuel was the one that says that we don't say Pitikra Yorev Sotem in 4 directions. Okay. So Shmuel lo amar kerav alachson l'ktani. The reason why Shmuel does not want to say like Rav is because he doesn't hold of the concept of alachson. Okay, which means
But this
that
roof's not slanted.
which one?
127 is not slanted.
Yeah, it's not slanted. Okay, so Shmuel does not speak about the concept of right. Shakiruya Bayit was balachson. Why? Because he says we're not talking about the tikra was mishupat, was like a slanted roof, and therefore the majority of the houses then and there were flat roofs. Okay, that's the way they were. So therefore, in such a case, even if the pizza is going to be on 2 different sides, for example, the corner, right? Still, you should say Pitikra Yorev Sotem. Because remember, according to Shmuel, you do say Pitikra Yorev Sotem as long as it's not going to be 4 corners. But if it's going to be 2, you would say it. So even if it's going to be like that, what's the problem? The majority of the houses, the roofs are like this. They're not going to be like nowadays at a lot of houses. The truth is, it all depends also on cities and countries. In Israel, majority of them are flat. And I said here, you could have a very big, other than obviously apartment buildings, right, because it doesn't make sense in an apartment building, but I'm saying houses, the majority do have a roof like this, no? How many flat roofs do you have?
majority is
The majority are the other roofs, the slanted roofs. Okay? So he says over
when
here.
they are like that, they're flat.
Spanish style. Spanish way is only slanted.
Oh, yeah? So everybody, what? You're going to tell me everything's Spanish? How is it in New York?
In New York, also slanted, and depend where. It's mostly like the English type, and all of them slanted.
Right, okay. So that's what I'm saying. English, like I'm saying, the majority
Because
of places.
when you make it slanted, so the water won't. So the water goes down. You know, won't
Right, exactly.
ruin the wall.
Yeah. Huh? I hear there's noise. Which one? The? Oh. Okay. Fine. Next. So Shmuel does not say like Rav because there's alachson lo ktani. Because we're talking about alachson. We never spoke about alachson. We're not talking about that it was done in such a case. Rav lo amar Shmuel, and Shmuel, Rav didn't say like Shmuel. In ken avilek asadra, because if not, it's like an achsadra. Rav la ta'amin, Rav goes according to his reasoning. The amar, because he says achsadra mutaltel bekula. You're allowed to be mutaltel in the entire achsadra. Okay, the Itmar Bazu said, achsadra b'ikar Rav amar, Rav says you're allowed to be mutaltel bekula. Shmuel says you're not allowed to be mutaltel only 4 amot. Rav says you're allowed to be mutaltel bekula, but we say pitikra yover sotem even on all 4 sides. That means if you have an open pergola, an open trellis, we say on all 4 sides pitikra yover sotem, and all of a sudden I have 4 mechitzot, you're allowed to be mutaltel in the entire thing. According to Shmuel, no. Why? Because we don't say pitikra yover sotem only on 3 sides, not on 4. Fine. Says the Gemara, be'eser. If we're talking about the revach and achsadra between 1 and 1 is 10 amot or left or less, sorry, kule amalo plige, nobody argues, right? That what? That is going to be mutal taltel, because we do say pitikar yorev sotem. Ki plige, when there's a machloket, if it's going to be more than 10 amot. That's this picture, 1028. Yeah.
So in a way, it's like seed achit, no? In a way.
No, it's a different concept. Yeah, because pitikra is that we're saying that this tikra is going downwards, right? From the top until the bottom. Okay. Yeah, it's like a kid. Exactly. You're making like a kid.
What is that? What is that picture different showing from the other ones we have?
No, that this is open in 4, but it says that since it's going to be 10 amot or less, so therefore, even according to Shmuel, we do say pitikra yored v'sotem.
If you notice it looks like one piece is not breached. No, they're all breached.
No, they're all breached. This is also breached over here. You just can't make it in a way that you could see through it.
But since it's less than 10, Shmuel says it's okay too.
Yeah, that's kule alma. And this is a case where it's more than 10, so therefore this is a machlok between Rav and Shmuel. Picture 1029. V'ika de'amri, other people say, biyater, if it's going to be more, kule alma lo plige, everyone agrees that it's going to be a sur even according to Rav. When there's a machloket, only if it's going to be 10 or less. So basically there's a machloket when is the cases. Okay? Behad Amar of Yehuda, and that which Rav Yehuda comes and he says, right? Kora arba'a matir bechurba. One second. Tosafot, here it is.
What number?
1037. Okay, so if everyone looks at 1037, you have the picture. It says, according to Rabbi Yehuda, what did he say? Korah arba'a. If you have a korah which is 4 tfachim, right, in a churba, it's going to matir the entire churba. So here you have the churba, the ruins. Yeah? And you have here the korah. Remember, the korah is the top beam, right? The lechi is the side beam, right? The korah, this is the korah. So the korah has 4 tfachim. That's what it says over here, 4 tfachim. Yeah. Okay, if it's going to have 4 tfachim, it's going to be matir the churba. Rav Nachman Amar, matir permits, mutar, right? Same thing. Yeah. So matir bechurba. Rav Nachman Amar, Rav Nachman says the name of Rabbi Baravua. Korah arba matir b'mayim. It's going to permit even water. I don't know if we have a picture of that one. No.
Carrying water over which the beam extends.
Yeah, no, we don't have the picture.
Closing the underlying area and all that.
Yeah, okay, we don't know the picture, but it's the same thing. Basically, just pretend that behind here is water, it's the same thing. Okay, Mani, who is this? Lehach lishna damarta be'eser lo plige. According to the lishna that says that in 10, right, we're not arguing, which means 10 or less, we're not arguing with divrei hakol. Lehach lishna damarta be'eser plige kerav. And according to the mandamar that says that if it's going to be 10 amot and it's still going to be a machloket, obviously it's going according to Rav and not according to Shmuel. Because according to Rav, you're closing on all four sides. Okay? And according to Shmuel, you don't say that. So so why don't we just say that the machloket between Abaye and Rava, right, is going to be the same machloket between Rav and Shmuel, where the Itmar as it was stated, Sikech al gabe achsadra sheyesh la patzimin. What happens if you right now came and you put schach on top of an achsadra that has pitzimin? Remember, the achsadra is like the opening in your front yard, or your courtyard, right? Pavilion.
Taking the car?
Yeah, you see it over here? So here, it's
Yes.
got pitzimin.
What?
Pitzimin. Pitzimin are the
Boards?
yeah, these things that stick out.
The spikes.
The spikes that are
It's not
stuck out.
flashed out with the wall, Richard.
Like yesterday.
Like yesterday, you remember coming out of the wall and therefore it was blocking on the sides of the Reshut Rabin? Okay? So it says over here, so what happens? He says, the sukkah is going to be kosher for yeshiva b'sukkah because since the avir, the space between the amudim is considered closed because of levud, right? That's why it says over here in the back, if you see in the back of the picture, pachot mishloshat tfachim. Because basically, since each one is less than 3 tfachim, right? Everything here is less than 3 tfachim, so therefore it's all considered levud. So it's all closed. So it's all enclosed. Okay? So she'en la pitzimin abayim, sorry. Kishira, it's going to be kosher. He says, but we say it's going to be levud. She'en la pitzimin, if it does not have pitzimin, which I guess will probably be the next picture. Yeah, the next picture does not have pitzimin, so you don't have those pegs around, right? Abaye says it's going to be kosher, and Rava says it's going to be pasul. Abaye says you're going to be kosher. Why? Because they say pitikra yorev sotem.
You got no walls.
The pitikra.
But there's not even one wall.
I don't understand you. The
For a
pitikra.
sukkah. You can't make a sukkah with not even one wall.
1 minute. The pitikra yorev sotem makes it 3 walls now. I've got 3 walls now. Remember, Richard, here's the roof, right? This is a roof. This is on this side is a roof. The sukkah, the schach is only in the center here. I don't know how I would be able to.
I got the picture.
1 second.
Maybe the back wall is a wall. I don't know.
No,
This is considered.
1 second.
This is considered.
I don't know if I could.
This side is a wall. What about back here? No.
It doesn't. We look at it as if it's.
Oh, you moved to
אחי.
1040.
זה כמו, זה אותו רעיון.
It's on 39.
זה אמרתי, זה אותו רעיון, אבל זה לא בדיוק אותו דבר.
Are you on 40? 1040, you moved.
What? No, I'm trying to edit. 1 second. I want to see if I could actually draw on this.
But you could see it.
No, it's not letting me draw. חבל. Okay. No.
אפשר לעשות את זה, אבל.
Extending the edge of the beam downward, Rava says.
No.
אפשר לעשות את זה.
Except for using
How do
these
you-
rudimentary partitions, the beams that would extend down have been made for the
Fine,
pavilion.
but I'm not.
כבר היית גומר את זה.
Yeah.
In case the sukkah, these
Prince can
partitions,
look
the
at
beams
paint,
have not
but
been
it's
made for
also-
simple purposes.
No, it's too much time. Fine. Over here, like this. Yeah, everyone's with me. One more time. Here's the schach.
Number?
I'm in the same picture. 1039. Okay. This is the schach in the middle. Here I have the roof. Okay. This is the roof which is extending outside, right? Which is like on top of like an overhang. So this overhang over here, since it finishes over here, I'm saying pitikra yorev sotem on 3 sides, and therefore there's going to be a kosher sukkah. Why? Because which of you? I think we said it was 3 tvachim. Or 4 tvachim, maybe. So he says, Shmuel Amar, Abaye says it's going to be kosher, because he says, Pitikar Yorev Sotem. The Rava says it's going to be Pasul, Shelo Amar Pitikar, because we don't say Pitikar Yorev Sotem. Okay?
Because we don't say, would you say that in English, please?
Well, we don't say that the roof goes downwards. We don't say that this concept goes downwards. So that's a machlok between Rava and Abaye. So he says over here, so why don't we just say that Abaye holds like Rav and Rava holds like Shmuel, right? So says the Gemara, Liba de Shmuel kulam lo plige. According to Shmuel, nobody argues, right? That according to Shmuel, that he says that on 4 ruchot we don't say it, right? Nobody argues that in a chsadra that has petzimin that it's going to be, that it does not have petzimin, that it's going to be psula, according to everybody. When is the machloket? Only in Shitat Rav. That's what we're saying, Liba de Rav. Okay, Abaye holds like Rav, and Rava is going to say, Rav Hatam. When did Rav say that? When the mechitzot are made for the achsadra. But here, the mechitzot were not made, right? That's what he's saying over here. They were made for the sukkah. I'm not going to say that. It means even Rav is going to say that we don't say that it's pitikari vesotem. Meaning, if this was made for an achsadra. An achsadra was a picture before, the trellis without a sukkah. Forget about a sukkah. Okay? So there I say, pitikari vesotem to make it for the achsadra. Here, what I'm trying to do with the pitikari vesotem for the sukkah, it wasn't made for the sukkah. So because of that, that's why we don't say this. Fine. Rabbi Yosef. No, but that's a machloket. That's what he's trying to say now. I don't know what you're talking about. Here, when the, yeah. Right. Okay, but first of all, we have to find out. Okay, I don't think it's kashur one to another. Because you don't have this. But you only say pitikra v'yeravesotem if you have this. I don't know. That's what you're saying. I don't know. Okay. Fine. Says the Gemara. Okay. Rabbi Yosef says imutarin. If they're going to be permitted for one Shabbat, it's going to be permitted for all the Shabbatot. So we're going to ask the following question. Rabbi Yosef. Yeah, Rabbi Yosef. Right? Le'esor or le'atir? Does Rabbi Yosef come to be oser or to be matir? What is Rabbi Yosef trying to do? He's trying to prohibit always or to permit always? So he comes and he says, Amar of Shashat says of Shashat, le'esor, to prohibit. Rabbi Yochanan le'esor, so too says Rabbi Yochanan to be oser. Meaning that he wasn't coming to permit things, he was coming to prohibit the things. So each matter was stated. Rav Chia bar Yosef Amar, Rav Chia bar Yosef says, the halacha is like Rabbi Yosef. So basically the halacha would be like Rabbi Yosef, that if it was going to be broken on Shabbat, it's a sur on the Shabbat, the same Shabbat. Shmuel says, no, the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda. The halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda, that is permitted.
Makes much more sense.
Okay. So says the Gemara, yeah, he says, Umi Amar Shmuel Hachi. Does Shmuel actually say that? Right, Vatana, we learned in a Mishnah. Amar Rabbi Yehuda says, one of these words, Beruvet Tchumin. But by Eiruvei Chatzerot, Me'arvim El Ledat, Ben Shelo Ledat. You could do Eiruvei Chatzerot, Ben Ledat, Ben Shelo Ledat. Ya Lefi Shezachin Adam Shelo Befanav, Ben Chavim Shelo Befanav. Because we're always going to give a zechut for a person and not a chovat to a person, which means that we always want to make that a person would gain but not lose. The Amar of Yehuda Shmuel says, Shmuel, Halacha Zak Rabbi Yehuda. Velo, not only that, Elakom Makom Shna Rabbi Yehuda Beruvin. Anytime we teach Rabbi Yehuda in Hilchot Eruvin, Halacha Zak him. The Amar Rav Chana Magata Rav Yehuda says Rav Chana Magata to Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, does Shmuel say, Afilu Mavush Takor Alachyo. The Amalein, he says, Beruvin Amarti Lecha, Velo Bemechitzot, only to do with an eruv, but not to do with the mechitza. That means if an eruv was taken off its korah or lechi, the side post or the top beam, then it's like that, but not in the mechitzot. Okay? So therefore, this goes against the entire concept that you just said that Chazak Yud and the Mishnah. Because here we're talking about mechitzot. We're not talking about the mavui. So Ravanan says, they explained to me this concept of Shmuel, kan shenifretza lekarmelit, kan shenifretza l'reshut rabim. It all depends whether it was nifretza l'reshut rabim or to the karmelit. I don't have a picture.
Yesterday, we said if the wall ruined on Shabbat, we keep it like that. We don't change the status.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, I'm saying that's correct to that exactly, because otherwise it will be in conflict. Because now
This is exactly what we're talking about.
Now it's figured out with this.
No, we don't have a picture. No. Fine. So basically, what we're trying to say is that one of them is open to a karmelit, and one of them is open up to a reshut rabim. So if it's going to be an open up to a karmelit, he was permitting you to carry on Shabbat, but there's no isur doraita. It's going to be open up to a reshut rabim. It's going to be prohibited. Okay, Mishnah. There's a Mishnah on Tzadikei Amud Aleph 95a in order to finish the perek. Haboneh aliyah al gabe shnei batim. If you're going to build a second floor on top of two houses, and they're on two sides of the Reshut Rabim. This is a very interesting concept. Yeah, here's the picture. 1041. One house here, one house here. Each one of them built an aliyah, but when they built an aliyah, they connected the aliyah on top of the Reshut Rabim.
Aliyah's roof?
Yes, aliyah is the second floor. Right? A gag is a roof. Aliyah is the second roof. What? It's a house.
So in between there is a wall, this belongs to him, this belongs to him?
Yeah. Or maybe it's the same person. Yeah?
But for sure not for people to walk through. Like
Yeah,
a
it's
bridge.
not. No, that's the next one is a good bridge. Right? V'chen gesharim amfulashim. Right? Or you have a gesher, which is also above Reshut Rabim. This, usually here in America, you don't have a lot of these things. But for example, whether it's in Israel or other places like that, you have a lot of these. Right? That all of a sudden you're going to look on top of you, and all of a sudden you've got a huge bridge, right on top, in the middle of the Reshut Rabim. Okay, here you have it. Here you have it in highways. But I'm saying, but not on like we're talking about like a residential and things like that. So it says over here, metaltalin tachtehen b'Shabbat, because basically underneath this is considered Reshut HaYachid. It means even though it doesn't have mechitzot, again we say pitikra yored v'sotem, which is again that this goes down, and therefore you're allowed to carry underneath the bridges. Okay? Divre Rabbi Yehuda. These are the words of Rabbi Yehuda.
Underneath the bridge, it's just a Rabbim, though. I mean,
But that's what we just said. It's got the din of Reshut HaYachid. And the reason why is because we say pitikra yored v'sotem, and therefore you have 4 mechitzot.
oh, you mean side to side, not long ways, not up and down the road, just from one end of the thing to the other.
No. We say on all 4 corners.
אתה יודע, הרב, זה כמו בית המקדש, הכהנים עושים מהדרך הצדדית שיקחו ויעלו למעלה כדי שלא יהיה כמעט, שלא בראשית.
Yeah, there was another thing there.
כן?
You know, it would help if you spoke in English so I could benefit from your analysis.
Okay, it's okay.
Everyone else could benefit as well.
Fine, but here it says, here it's four directions that we're saying pitikra yored v'sotem, and therefore, right, there's going to be 4 mechitzot. So he says these are the words of Rabbi Yehuda. Chachamim osrim. The Chachamim come and they say that it's going to be a sul taltel underneath it, right? Because again, this is like Reshut Rabim. Ve'odam Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda also said, "Me'arevin lemavuyim fulash." You're allowed to be ma'arev to a mavuyim fulash. That's picture 1043. Remember, mavuyim fulash means that it's completely open on both sides.
But that was it put a lechi.
Yeah, on this side and this side. Okay. But Chachamim osrim, and the rabbis argue, and they say you're not allowed to be metaltel in such a mavui because it's not she'eno mavui. It's not like a mavui satum that it's going to be or lechi or korah. You need both. Fine. Says the Gemara. Okay, everyone's here, yeah? Amar Rabba says Rabba. Lo te'mahainu ta'amad Rabbi Yehuda. Don't say that the reason Rabbi Yehuda is mishum dekasav shte mechitzot doraita, because he holds that 2 mechitzot are going to be doraita, right? And therefore you have 2 mechitzot on the 2 sides of the Reshut Rabim. So you have 2 mechitzot already doraita. Ela mishum dekasav pitikra v'sotem. Rather, he says that there's 4 mechitzot because you have 2 mechitzot on the 2 sides of the Reshut Rabim and another 2 mechitzot because of pitikra, and therefore that's why he was matid. So it's not because he had 2 mechitzot doraita, but rather because you have pitikra yored v'sotem, and therefore you have all 4 mechitzot. Okay, so Abaye is going to ask a question on this concept. Yetel ken Amar Yehuda, says Rabbi Yehuda, shnei batim shnei tzidei Reshut Rabim. If a person has 2 houses on the 2 sides of the Reshut Rabim, so here, look at this picture. This is 1044.
Okay.
You see, this is the Reshut HaYachid. Here you have pitikra, this is the Reshut Rabim, right? But rather he says the pitikra is going down over here.
How is this different from the previous pictures?
It's the same thing. Okay, so now he comes and he says, This is the next picture, 1045. If you have two houses on two sides of the Reshut Rabim, right? So look, I have a house here and a house here. Yeah, two sides of the Reshut Rabim.
Yeah.
I own a house on both sides. Okay? So what does he have to do? You have to make a lechi here and a lechi there. And this is the Reshut Rabim. Okay? Or koramikan.
Accomplish.
1 second. Or koramikan vekoramikan. Or a korah from one way or a korah another way. Yeah? And then, right, now what am I allowed to do? It becomes a Reshut Yachid. Which means, even I've got my house here and my house here. I want to carry from my house to my house. So now by making the korah here, or lechi here, I make it that this area is considered Reshut Yachid. Now I'm allowed to carry from my house to my house.
Only me or anybody?
Well, for sure you. Right, that there's no problem. But it should also be everyone if it's going to be considered a Reshut Yachid.
How he made the other picture, Rabbi?
Lechi.
Little teeny lechi. See him?
Side posts. Or korah. Top beam. I don't remember which day we learned this. We learned this.
These
Okay.
the Korah,
Okay. So now it says, Amrulo, they said, En me'arvin Reshut Rabim bekach. We cannot be me'arev the Reshut Rabim in such a fashion. Okay? So therefore, what do you see from here? Right? That according to them, it's considered a Reshut Rabim until you have 3 mechitzot gemurot, which means that you need 3 different complete mechitzot. Here you only have 2. You have 1 wall, second wall, and this is not a wall. Even if you're going to say Pitik Rav said this is not a wall. So therefore here you only have 2 walls. Okay? So therefore you cannot make this into Reshut Rabim. So the question is, how could you tell me over here, right, that this is going to be okay? You do not have the walls. You only have the walls over here, but you don't have here you don't have 2 walls. So if you can't do that, this is Reshut Rabim. Okay? So Amalei, so he tells them, Me'ahi in. Right? From there, you're right, that you can bring a proof that according to Rabbi Yehuda, Shtem Mechitzot Doraita, Mehaba from our Mishnah, Leka Mishwamina, you cannot bring a proof. Meaning from this case, you're right, you could bring a proof that you do not say the concept of Pitik Rav Yosef, but rather because of the 2 Mechitzot Doraita. Right? From here, but not from our Mishnah. Okay? So he says, Amar Rashi says, Matriti Nami Daika, you could also actually bring a proof, or you could deduce it from a Mishnah. Midiktani was we said, Vodam Rabbi Yehuda system if you're going to tell me the Kasavar, Pitik Rav Yosef, and the Ve'od, that's why he says Ve'od, and furthermore. But if you're going to tell me the Kasavar, B'shtem Mechitzot Doraita, what is Ve'od? What does that have to do with anything? Yeah, it's not adding anything that we spoke about before to do the Pitik Rav. So Shema Mina, so you're right. Right, that our Mishnah is in like the explanation of Rabbah, right, that therefore you cannot bring a proof against Rabbah from our Mishnah. Okay, Adran Alach Kol HaGagot. Next Mishnah. Hamotzi Tfilin. Yeah, if somebody's going to come, we just started. Yeah? Okay. Hamotzi Tfilin. If somebody's going to find Tfilin. Okay, Machnisan Zug Zug.
should wear it.
Oh, wow. It goes from Tzadik Zayin, Tzadik until Tzadik Zayin Amud Bet. Fine, so no more pictures. Okay, so it says over like this, Hamotzei Tefillin, and somebody is going to find a tefillin, right, on Shabbat outside of the city in a place where it cannot be saved because of bizayon. So Machnisan Zug Zug, you could put them on pair by pair. Okay, so you put one on, just like you do during a weekday of Rosh and Yad, and then you go inside, and then you come back outside, and you put on another pair, and you come back inside. Rabban Gamliel Omer Gamliel says, Shnaim, you're allowed to put them on even 2 at a time. Yeah, 2 of Shel Rosh, 2 of Shel Yad. The Medvayim, one of these words, but Yeshanot, only if they're going to be old. Ava B'chadashot, but if they're going to be new tefillin, patur. Right? What does that mean? He doesn't have to bring them on.
What do you mean?
He doesn't have to bring them inside. It says it's even a sur to bring them inside. It's a sur. Masechet Asur be'achnisah.
What was the Indian?
So it says over here, maybe it's a kamiyah, and it still doesn't have kiddusha, because they didn't do it for the Shem Kiddusha Tefillin. Okay? Yeah, that's chadashot. Mitza'an, right? If you found many tefillin, and they're old, if they're tzvatim, which means that they're tied to each other, or krichot, or they're either bound to each other, right? That you cannot basically put them in all in one thing before the Tzeta Shabbat. מחשיכה להן ומביאן.
Why did you
So-
add old? It doesn't say old here anywhere. Bundle, it could be new or old, no?
So here I have in brackets old. Because remember, the entire concept is that you're allowed to bring it inside. If
I
it's
have in
new,
brackets, it's filling.
I know I have old. Tefillin old. Tzvatim, so it says over here that they're tied to each other. Or krichot, right? So he says, so that obviously you don't have enough time to bring them all in before the Tzeta Shabbat. Machshicha lehen, you could wait there with the tefillin until nighttime, until Motzei Shabbat. Mevian ali, then you bring it to the city. Uva sakana, now during the time of the sakana, that if you're going to leave it there because of listim, because of robbers,
95B.
tzadikei amud bet, yeah, tzadikei amud bet, which is 95b, mechasan, you cover them, veolech lo, and you just leave. Yeah? Or Rabbi Shimon says, Notan lechavero, right? Vechavero lechavero, shemagia lechatzer chitzona. What you're allowed to do is you don't cover it. You give it to your friend to your friend, and each one continues going. That means each one is carrying less than 4 amot until they get to the outer courtyard of the city, and now they're going to be watched over.
Like the
Vechen,
Sefer Torah.
right? And that we're going to say also to do with your son. Vechem beno, Notanon
He
lechavero,
was
vechavero lechavero, afilu
Maybe he
mea.
was born in the
Right? Also the same thing that, again, he was going to be born in the field, so you're allowed to bring him inside. So you give it to the friend to the friend, the friend to the friend, even to 100 people until you get to the city. Rabbi Yehuda says, Noten adam chavil lechavero, chavero, chavero. Same thing even to do with the barrel. Okay?
Like they
even
pass
outside of the
water and
tchum.
It's a fire. You hand it
Yeah.
to each other.
You continue doing that. Amrulo, so they told him, Lo ta'alech zo yoter min ragle be'alea. He says, just like the bala chavit, he's not allowed to go outside of the tchum, so too you cannot bring it outside of the tchum as well. That means if he did it uvet tchumim, you can't take it out of the tchum. Okay? Fine. Says the Gemara, Zug echad in tfelo. It's mashma over here that according to the Tanakhama, you're allowed to bring in wearing only one pair of tefillin, but not more. So when would you say that our Mishnah is not like Rabbi Meir? The Rabbi Meir is if it's going to go according to Rabbi Meir, Ha'amar, he already says, Lovesh kol ma sheyachol lilbosh, ve'otef kol ma sheyachol la'atof. You're allowed to dress anything which you could put on, or you could wear, or be matef. How do you say matef? It's like, wearing like a scarf. You're allowed to be matef, anything which is going to be matef.
Wrap himself
Wrap,
in all
that's a
the
wrap,
clothing.
right?
He wrapped
So
himself.
wrap. The Tzanam is we learned in the Mishnah. It says over here, "Ulcha motzi kol kli tashvishoy." If you're allowed to take all your kli tashvishim to another field, right, on Shabbat, v'levesh kol ma sheyachol libosh, v'oteh kol ma sheyachol la'atof. So says the Gemara, "Va'yi stama mimai de Rabbi Meir." How do you know that that stam Mishnah is like in accordance to Rabbi Meir? So he says, "Diktani alav," as we learned, "Loveshu motzi uposhet, loveshu motzi uposhet, afilu kol yom kolod." Rabbi Meir. For the fact that it's written over there that you're going to put it on, take it off. You're going to go to the other courtyard, take it off. Come back, put it on, go to the other courtyard, take it off, and you continue doing that the entire day. These are the words of Rabbi Meir. So it's mashma, right, that Mishnah was going in accordance to Rabbi Meir. So our Mishnah is arguing on that. It's not like Rabbi Meir. So Rava says, if you do Rabbi Meir, you could also say Rabbi Meir. Hatam derech malbusho kechol shavir Rabbanan. There, since you're doing it, that it's normal to wear clothing, so therefore it's like a chol, and therefore you're allowed to do so. Hacha, to do with achnasat tefillin on Shabbat, derech malbusho chol, like chol shavir Rabbanan. It's like derech malbusho of chol. You only put on one. Hatam de v'chol kama de ba'elavish, inyan atzala nami shari lelo Rabbanan. Hacha de v'chol nami zug echad in tefilo.
Even in the summer,
Yeah,
if you
that's
put
a
a
lot.
lot on winter, you can do it in the
Exactly, nami zug echad in tefilo, which means that it's norm. It's normal. Some people will come and they'll put 20 layers. Right? They have one layer and another layer, another layer, another layer. Okay, so a guy has so many layers. Okay, fine. But here, to do with the tefillin, you only put on one layer. So that's why it's a different halacha. Rabban Gamliel says you're allowed to put on 2 by 2s. My kasava, what does he hold? I kasava Shabbat zman tefillinu. If you're going to tell me that Shabbat is the time of tefillin, so again, zug echadin tefilo. So only put on 1, not 2 tefillin. Because if you're going to tell me Shabbat is not a time of tefillin, they permitted it, so then even put on more. If you're already putting on more, put on 10 tefillin. Why only 2? So leolam kasava Shabbat lav zman tefillinu. Sharabanan le'inyan atzalat derech malbush bimkom tefillin. Says really, Be'emet, he's saying that Shabbat is not a time of tefillin. But when did the rabbis permit you derech malbush bimkom tefillin? Which means that they permitted you as if to say that it's like derech malbush. It has to be, so therefore it has to be bimkom tefillin. Which means that just like a person would come and put it on, he shouldn't do more than 2 pairs. So he says, 1 second, so it should only be 1, not 2. So he says, Amar Shmuel bar Yitzchak, makom yesh parosh hanech bo shlen tefillin. There's enough place on your head to put on tefillin, 2 tefillin. So therefore you're allowed to save 2 by 2. Yeah, people do it all the time. They put on 2 tefillin. You have enough space on your head, right? You're allowed to. You've got enough space, so it's okay. No problem. Also on the thing. So he says, Hani chaderosh, that's only good on the head. The yad ma'ikalim. What are you going to say on the hand? Says the Gemara, Ravuna, Dam Ravuna, פעמים שאדם בא מצדד וחבילתו על ראשו מסלקן, ראשו וקושר מזרוע. He says, no. Sometimes it will happen that you have tefillin shel rosh, and you're going to put the tefillin shel rosh on your hand. Why? You've got a burden, and you're going to put it on your head. Remember, the people used to carry with their heads. Even until nowadays, they still carry with their heads. Yeah? So, Eimar Dam Ravuna, that's when he says, Shalin Hagba,
Where does he put it?
on his head.
On his arm, I'm saying.
He's going to tie it on his arm. That means it's tefillin shel rosh. He's going to put it also on his arm.
On the upper arm, let's see.
What?
Although it cannot be established that two tefillin can be placed in the area prescribed for the mitzvah, you can anyway wear an additional arm tefillin in the upper arm.
Okay, fine. So it says the Gemara, Eimar Dam Ravuna. When did Ravuna say the Shalin Hagba in derech bezion? Or if it's not going to be bezion? Ra'ui mi'amar. But is it fitting? That's what we're talking about. Right? That means since right now you cannot put two in your hands, so you're not going to say that the second tefillah is like a tachshit. So for the question is, how do you permit putting on two? You have enough space, whether it's on your head or on your arm, to put two different tefillin.
All right.
Tanat ve'minasheh. We taught in the Academy of Minasheh. Al yadecha. What does it mean? Right al yadecha. What does it mean al yadecha? Zo kiboret. That's the place where you're supposed to put the tefillin shel yad, on the kiboret. So it says over here, the kiboret is the shrid, it's the muscle, right, which is in the middle of the zruah, right? It's not the hand, so the lower hand, right? It's not the hand, it's not this part, and it's not also on the shoulder, but rather it's the muscle. So he says, ben enecha, what does it mean ben enecha? Zo kudkod. It's a kudkod, right? What does that mean? Heicha, where's the kudkod exactly? It's where if you touch on the baby, on the soft part right here, he's got a soft part. So that's where you put the tefillin. So Leiman b'Rav Shmuel bar Yitzchak kamipalgeh. Why don't we just say that that's a machlok between Rav Shmuel bar Yitzchak? The Tanakama let Rav Shmuel bar Yitzchak was the Tanakama that right that he argues, right, and he says that you have the space. He doesn't hold like Rav Shmuel bar Yitzchak. So according to him, right, since there's only space for one tefillin, right, so therefore he says the other one is carrying. But according to Rav Gamliel, he holds like Rav Shmuel bar Yitzchak. So says the Gemara, no. Everybody holds Rav Shmuel bar Yitzchak. Right, that means basically that the person does have enough space on the head for two and on the arm for two. Here the machlok between them is it time for tefillin or not? Tanakama holds it's Shabbat is man tefillin. Gamliel holds Shabbat is love zman tefillin. It's not the time of tefillin. If you want, you can answer another answer. According to everybody, you can put on.
Can you just slow down just for a second? You lost me. What did we just talk about just now? The last thing you talked about.
What we just said right now is that we just wanted to make a machloket. Does everybody agree that there's enough space to put two tefillin on the head and two tefillin on the arm? So we wanted to say that. Why don't we just say that that's a machloket between the Tanakama and Rav Gamliel, right? That according to Tanakama, you could only take out one tefillin, right? Because he holds that you only have space for one. And according to Rav Gamliel, he says you could take out two tefillin because you have space for two. So the Gemara answered, no, everybody agrees to Shmuel bar Yitzchak that you do have enough space on the head to put on two and on the arm to put on two. Okay, so you do have enough space. So what is the machlok between them? Is Shabbat a time of tefillin or not?
So what's, in other words,
meaning are you allowed to put on?
I mean, even if it's not a time for tefillin, they're letting you rescue it because they're letting you put it on to rescue anyway. What's the difference if it's a time for tefillin?
No, so therefore you could only save it derech la mitzvah. If it's right now a mitzvah, so therefore you could only save it the derech la mitzvah.
Which means one.
And that's a Tanakama. And according to Rav Gamliel, right, it's not the time of tefillin. So since it's not the time of tefillin, anyway, you're not doing the mitzvah.
Who holds it as a time of tefillin?
What?
There's nobody that holds that you wear tefillin on Shabbos.
Chas v'shalom.
Tefillin on Shabbos?
What's the problem? Do you know that the tefillin on Shabbat is only asur because of some people say that it's only because of a pia Kabbalah, right? But here, that was what you said.
One crown, the crown of Shabbos is our
That's
crown.
the reason why you might not need to do it. But it's not that it's asur to put it on, right? It could be that you don't need to put it on. What? There's a whole machloket. Is tefillin muktzeh? Is it
I've heard this about the night is a time for. I mean, I know that there's a whole sugi on the night for tefillin is good or not good, and then they finally come and say, "Well, we don't do it. But you could do it if you wanted to." I never heard this about Shabbos. You can wear tefillin.
Okay, so here you just learned it.
It says here you can wear it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's by the way, it's in Masechet Shabbat, Samech Aleph Amud Aleph, 61a. But that was the first answer. So the first answer was that we made the machloke between Rav Shmuel bar Yitzchak. He says, between Tanakama and Rav Gamliel, that according to Tanakama they hold Shabbat Zman Tefillin, and according to Rav Gamliel it's Lav Zman Tefillin. Says the Gemara, you could answer another answer. The Chule Alma Shabbat Zman Tefillin. right? That it's according to everybody, it is Zman Tefillin. And here the entire machloket is, do mitzvot sichot kavana or not?
That's a whole nother sugya.
Another sugya, right? Tanakama holds that latzet lo by kavana. You do not need kavana to be tzedek chovah. So since he says that Shabbat Zman Tefillin, and he also holds that mitzvot do not need kavana, so even if you put it on without kavana, you're doing a mitzvah. So therefore, you have bal tosif. You're not allowed to put on another pair without kavana. So if you're not allowed to bring in another pair, according to Gamliel, latzet by kavana. You do need kavana in order to be tzedek chovah. And therefore, that's why you have to dafka have the kavanah. We'll stop here because again, it's